Um, Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's show. Welcome to today's edition, um, mental health and wellness. Welcome to the show. And welcome to each and every one of you. I'd like to welcome you. As you are coming on, please share the show. Please invite someone. Today we are hopefully going to be concluding, climaxing, or finishing up the mental health and wellness portion of defense mechanism. And if need be, we would revisit this session at some point during subsequent conversations. But I want to welcome each and every one of you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to today's edition. Share the show, invite others, tell someone about the show this afternoon as we get started. The good thing about it is it's non political. We'll make the disclaimer very soon. We'll make the disclaimers. It's non political. And so we'd like to invite every one of you, share the show. Today we are going to be finishing up this conversation. We are. So let's share the show. Um, Today we'll rush straight into our topic or the conversation for the day. So, but in the meantime, share the show. Um, Invite someone. Come clear your head out from all of the politics. This is very interesting. Very, very interesting show today as we look forward to all of you being part of the conversation for today. Well, let's share the show. We're going to be talking about defense mechanism very soon. We'll define to you what defense mechanism is, what it means, um, and you would get to know how it works and all that good stuff. So let's share the show. Let's invite someone as we'll be diving into the conversation here very, very, very soon. Quickly, we want to make the disclaimers as we always do before we go any further into the show. We'd like to make the disclaimer. Um, we want to welcome each and every one of you to the show. Uh, this show is meant for educational or teaching purposes. It is not meant or it does not serve as therapy. If you choose to do that or to select it as therapy, that's your option, but it's not for therapy because you are not charged for anything. You're not charged, so it's not for therapy. Um, you have the right to participate. You would have opportunity to call, ask your question. We ask that our interaction in the live feed session or the comment session, please be respectful. Please and please, let's be respectful of one another in our exchanges, in our interactions. Let's disagree respectfully. Let's disagree respectfully with one another. And you can also disagree with me as a presenter. You can, it's your right. But let's not get insulting, disrespectful, cussing people, and so forth. No. Also, this show is apolitical, so please keep all your politics, all the political commentary, keep them for another time, not on the show today, please. Leave all of the politics for tomorrow. We'll talk politics here tomorrow. But for today, we are not going to do politics. So please and please, no politics. I hope and wish that will be the expectation Um, if you ever come on here and you say something, you will be helpful and liable for it, not us. You'll be responsible for your words. Also, we cannot guarantee any confidentiality. Since we cannot guarantee any confidentiality, whatever you say here, because it's in a public space, it will be at your own detriment. If you come here and you pull out some of your private information or so forth, it's basically going to be on you. We're not responsible for it. Just so we're clear on those different rules and regulations here. As we move quick into the musical break, share the show. Once we get back, we're getting straight into the conversation. Today we will run into things really quick, really quick. And we'll go from there. So let's share the show. And let's invite someone. Let's get to the quick musical break here. Thank you for helping us to share the show, and we'll be right back.
Lump.
It's
Fire friend like me, fire friend like me. If you not want betray a fire friend like me, fire friend like me, fire friend like me. If you not want betray a fire friend like me.
Bombe oh, fire friend like me. Bombe jene oh, fire friend like me. Fire friend like me. Fire friend like me.
Hey, see bestie, your bestie not sweet like my bestie. Your bestie da la bestie. Fire friend like me.
I say, see bestie wanting to happy. Fire friend like me. I hear them say they want me go. I say
Some of them say they want me go.
I say
Some French girl oh. Some French girl oh. Some French girl oh. French girl oh. Hey, see bestie, your bestie not sweet like my bestie. Your bestie da la bestie. Fire friend like me.
I say, see bestie wanting to happy. Fire friend like me. Okoro. They won't step on my blessing, but God get it breaking, yeah. Okoro. They won't call it my blessing, but God get it breaking, yeah. Okoro.
French, see French, can't see Papa T French. And I want no back for French. And I want now where the French. Wangolo, Wango for bestie, Wango for daddy, Wangolo.
I hear them say they want me go. I say I hear them say they want me go. I say
Some French Some French Some French Hey, see bestie, your bestie not friend by my bestie. Your bestie da la bestie. Fire friend like me.
I say, see bestie wanting to happy. Fire friend like me.
Beats.
All right. Well, welcome back. Like we told you, welcome and welcome. We'll get straight into the conversation here. As you are already aware, um, today we'll go a little faster because we've been over this. I want to announce to you to first of all say we are sorry that Tekonti couldn't be on today. She has an emergency. That is why we are reverting to the previous conversation we started off with. And so, but hopefully, if everything falls in place and it goes well, she would be back sometimes next week with us to continue on a conversation on the topic we'd previously started. So we are also in talks with other people as well, so that we can get into this conversation and have this conversation. So we should hopefully by next week have a guest. We should. If it's not Deconti, it's going to be Massa. It's going to be somebody else. That is something we're working on. But let's get quickly into the conversation here. That is the reason you are not seeing Deconti, for those of you who might be wondering why. Last time we were here, we talked to you about the difference between mental health and mental illness. We told you the importance of both of them. For example, we told you mental health would include a healthy psychological, our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think. So that's in terms of mental health. Mental health affects how you think, how you feel, how you act, and how you cope with life. It also helps to determine how you handle stress. It's been a stressful week for me. It's been a stressful week for me for work and other things that have been going on as well. But when you are in a good mental state, you tend to handle some of these stress in a more healthy way. But your mental health also helps you to relate to others, to make choices, the choices we make or the decisions that we make. Mental health also is important at every stage of our lives, as we talked about the other time, from childhood to adulthood through adolescence. So that means from the time you were born or from the time your mom was pregnant with you, up to the time she gives birth and up to the time that you develop as a person, mental health is very, very important. But let's look into mental illness, because the opposite of mental health would be mental illness. That is the opposite of mental health. So the opposite of being healthy is the opposite of being ill. So mental health, mental illness, they're considered serious disorders. So think about it. When someone starts saying the person got mental illness or whatever it is, these are serious disorders. And so think about it. That's why people who know better, who are in this field, don't just go around pronouncing or pointing, as other people would do, to just put a label on people. It's because it's a disorder. It's a serious disorder. Once you start to put a label on someone or on something, it goes a long way. It goes a long way. So I wanted to make sure we're clear on that. So mental illness, since it's a serious disorder, it can affect the way you think, it can affect your mood, and it can affect your behavior. Mental illnesses also occasionally, they can be occasional or they can be long lasting. They can affect your ability to relate to other people and function every day. Mental disorder are common. They're found in more than half of Americans. Let me put it that way. So thinking about it, they're found in more than half of the Americans. Think about it, and just think about it. We haven't even done it for Africans. So just think about if it's affecting people who have the resources. What's about people who do not have the resources or the means? So there are a lot of things that be going on with this whole mental health issues that people joke with. So when you see people start acting odd and they start acting weird or somewhat, start thinking about, where is the mindset, the mental capacity. Start thinking about it. But We also want to know the importance of mental health. So we talked about it briefly the other time. Why mental health is very important. Mental health is important because it can help you to cope with stress. It can also help you be physically healthy. It can help your mental health, not mental illness. So the opposite of it, every time I say this, please keep in mind, the opposite of it would be mental illness. So your mental illness would help you not be able to cope with people in a very good way. You can't have a good relationship. Some people are very toxic. They're very dramatic. They're problematic. They're just noisy. Very bad environment. Very bad. Things that they do. They're very unhappy sets of people. I would use the word miserable. Some of them, some of them are just very destructive, very unhealthy. Yet there are some people too that are attracted to those kind of things, but then it speaks volume of where the mental health is as well. So we have to think about it in that way. So also mental health, your mental health is important because it can make you have meaningful contributions. You can become productive at work. It also helps you to realize your potential. So mental health is very important. So when you're not mentally okay, then that in itself is a problem. So quickly, let's run over some signs. Again, there are a lot of different signs of mental illness, but let's run over some of them really, really quick. Some of them just really, really, really quick. As we're running, time here today will be on time because we have a lot to catch up with, a lot to do right after here. So, some of the common signs of mental health would be you having sleep problem or appetite changes. You having mood problem, you're unstable. There are some people that are on medication, so they get mood stabilizers and so forth for the mood to be stabilized. You're quick to flip. You're unpredictable. You have a serious behavioral problem or pattern. You're inconsistent in your actions and your behaviors with people. But you also drop in functions, you have problem thinking, apathy. Apathy, it's basically, when you lost initiative or desire, to participate in any activity, So apathy most of the times will be in correlation or related to depression or isolation, things like that. And so people who get in these kind of mood, they got to be watched very seriously because suicidal ideation, suicidal thought, and all of that could be running in their mind. So people with apathy, very careful, watch them, pay keen attention to them. What are some warning signs of mental illness? We are talking about it. Some of the warning signs of mental illness. So somebody reached out to me and said I'm talking too fast. Okay, I'll slow down so that people can get the message. Sorry, I already talk fast naturally, and then so increased sensitivity, feeling disconnected, illogical thinking, such as hallucination, delusion, all of these different things. Nervousness also relates to anxiety and other things. Panic, or you start being manic. All of these different things. Unusual behavior, you start acting unusual. Such as, for example, I know every time I say this sounds funny, but it's the truth. You wear small, you wear large, but you take your own hard-earned money, go to the store, in the name of quote-unquote being sexy, you buy small. Something is wrong with you. You don't make any sense. You might think you want to be sexy, but it doesn't add up. Especially at your age, with the resources and your ability to discern and to make the difference, you should be thinking rather not to do that. But again, people say, well, that's my choice, that's my money, or whatever it is. Great. By the end of the day, the truth of the matter is people start to question your decision, your rationale, whether you're logical, you're thinking logically. Because, if you wear small, you wear small. It is what it is. You wear large, you wear large. So, quickly, the issue of defense mechanism. We want to run through the guy who found that defense mechanism. This guy's name is The guy who founded defense mechanism, his name is Sigmund Freud. That's his name, Sigmund Freud. So I will use the word Sigmund most of the times so that you can hear me. You can understand me. I probably wouldn't use his last name as much, but Sigmund. Sigmund was an Austrian. Those of you who can relate to this name Austrian, most recently when the Liberian under 17 national team went to play soccer, they placed two of the guys from the team, I think it was one of the medic and the caretaker, left or ran away or whatever it is, quote unquote. That's the place, Austria. So they're both Austrians. He was an Austrian. He studied something called psychoanalysis. That's what he studied. Basically, he kind of analyzed people, analyzed behavior and other things. And, through this, he got people to talk and so forth and so on. But that will be for another time. So let's briefly look at some of the things that Sigmund Freud did, really, really quick. Sigmund encouraged people, Sigmund encouraged, through his experiment, he encouraged his patients to exercise, random thoughts. Just think about random things, talk about them, associate, disassociate. He was trying to get understanding of the feeling of association related to the mind. He wanted to uncover the unconscious mind, what's in the unconscious mind, what people are thinking as to how they're acting. So that means your thought must be in line with your behavior. Your thought must be in line with your actions. So let me give you a practical example. If somebody's thinking that it is snowing in the summer outside, it's snowing outside, and they when they wore summer clothes, winter clothes, in the summer, in a 90-degree Phoenix, and you are in winter clothes and you want to go outside or you want to go hang out, you're gonna start rethinking. Something is not right because the way you're thinking and the way you act, the way you're thinking and your action, they're not acting as opposed to what reality is. So that poses a problem. That can be of a concern. So it's in this line that Sigmund Freud started to do these examinations, and started to get people to understand these different things. It's in that same line. So as we go on, we get to understand his work and how defense mechanism came into play. So let's move on to the next page because, like I said, we have a lot to cover here. So then the question now becomes, the biggest question that we are here for today to ask ourselves is, what is defense mechanism? What is it? What is defense mechanism? That is the question that most people be asking. What is defense mechanism? So let's explore what defense mechanism is so that we can be on the same page as we dive into it. Now, the writings might be very small on your screen. Very, very small on your screen. So please bear with us. The writings might be very small on your screen, but please bear with us. We still have the notes here. So I will take time, or I'll say this, where I'll take my own time to tell you what defense mechanism is. I'll take my own time. So defense mechanism basically is psychoanalytical theory. So wherein any group of mental process that enables the mind to reach compromise solution to conflicts that is unable to be resolved. There are key things you need to pay attention to in what I just said. We'll go to it again. So defense mechanism is a psychoanalytic theory. So this is a theory. In other words, it's a belief. The same way how you believe in the Bible, you believe in the Quran, you believe in other books or whatever it is. Similarly, defense mechanism is a theory. So that means people believe in it. And yes, we do use it. Yes, it happens, and we'll tell you how it happens. So in this theory, people try to look for a way to process or to enable them to reach a compromise solution to the conflicts they are unable to resolve. So what does that mean? What does that mean for us who might now understand this? What it really, really means. What it means in essence, it means if I see danger, the first thing that I would do consciously or unconsciously is to be in a flight mood. Maybe that would not make sense to some people. But let me put it another way. When people see the people who have, let's say someone raped someone or violated that person. When you see that person, most times people would rather walk away than to facing the perpetrator, people who caused them or caused them harm. On the other hand, some people start to praise the perpetrator and make it look like they were the cause for that person to do what they did. So you see, those are forms of defense mechanism that we don't think about consciously. They happen unconsciously. Some of them sometimes, since they've become habits, we start to do them repeatedly as a way to avoid the conflicts that we're having within us. So let's take, for example, a woman or a guy who is raped, most of the time wouldn't want to talk about it. Most of the times, wouldn't even want to go in public where they're having this kind of conversation and sit there and listen. The best thing they will do is to walk away. That's how they resolve that conflict. That's how they handle that part of their life. That's what they do. But let's move down further into this. So the concept of defense mechanism derives from psychoanalytic hypothesis that there are forces in the mind that oppose and battle against each other. Well, we've heard this thing before where people, there's a battle of the mind or whatever now. Yes, people are battling the mind. Most of the times, the things that we do, the expectation would be we've thought about it. Sometimes people act before they think, and we all have been either part of it one way or the other. We're guilty of that. Sometimes we're just reactive. Instead of thinking and processing it, we just react. And sometimes we react instantaneously based on what's going on at the time. You don't have time to process it, you just react. And the body reacts at time without even processing something and going to a certain mood. So here's how it works. The process is usually unconscious, and the compromise generally involves in concealing from oneself internal drive or feeling that threaten lower self-esteem or provoke anxiety. So, in other words, defense mechanism helps you protect yourself from lower self-esteem. So let's take, for example, let me give you another typical example. Another example would be someone who got lower self-esteem think they have to do something to impress the group members who are either bullying them or you just feel in yourself that, got low self-esteem, you don't think you're too good to be in that group, you don't think you fit in that crowd, so you got to do the unusual. You got to act up. Yeah, you got you have to either be the talk of the time or do something unusual to suit or to fit in. So while we are having this podcast or whatever now, I'd like to recognize one of my teacher and my instructor. I never thought I would be doing this in any year. I know probably he wouldn't want me to point him out. Mr. Seaman. Seaman taught me in high school. A very good man and very good, one of the best teachers I've ever had. He taught me science. At some point, he was even my sponsor. Let me use that word. Back in Africa, we normally have sponsors, class sponsors. that the class, they're in charge of it. And, he taught me science, math. Very good man. Say, man, thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for all the knowledge. Thanks for everything you did. Thanks for the foundation. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do. So let's move on. So this issue of this defense mechanism, now people are trying to protect their low self-esteem or anxiety. So they get into this mood, and sometimes again, they're very unconscious, of it. They're unconscious of it. People are unconscious of some of these things at times. Again, over time, sometimes people become conscious of it and they just go with the flow. So let's take, for example, someone who's been raped or been violated would probably say, I don't think I need to seek help because it's been so many years and we talk about it in the village and the people that touch it and say we should just forget about it. So over the years, I just managed to just forget it. So when a child, family member, or other people are violated, whether in similar way or not, the way to resolve that problem is to just have it quiet and keep it under the rug and not talk about it because they're afraid of the stigma, they're afraid of how people will look at them, and so forth. Or they think the way they've handled it, which is part of one of the defense mechanisms that we use, is termed as suppression. They think by suppressing it makes it okay. But what they don't understand is the behavior wouldn't align with the actions because it goes a long way. It will alter your behavior whether you like it or not. It's not an issue of choice. It's an issue of something that will impact you, that will impact you for lifelong, even up to the way you handle things, even up to the way you view things. So people who view things as sexual violation, abuse, and other things, they think it's a normal thing. Another part of it, I'd like to get to this point before we move further, is people think, oh, I'm shy. In order for me to get active at a party, maybe I need to get drunk. Well, then that's not a healthy way. Over time, you find yourself either on an addictive route or it becomes a problem for you for your life. And so all of these different factors, basically, that's what defense mechanism mean, for some kind of way that is not healthy, basically to address your problem. But you think it's healthy and you go with that. So really quick, let's get into some of the defense mechanisms. And as we move on, let's get into some of them. We talked to you the last time about repression. We talk about repression. Repression is most of the times, some researchers, scholars have said, is the grandfather of all of them. So repression pretty much is withdrawal. You withdraw from consciousness or an unwanted idea, affect, or desire by pushing it down or by repressing it into unconscious, into the unconscious part of your mind. So that's what people do. They think if you don't think about the problem, you ignore it, over time, that is the way to address it. The problem will go away. That is not true. The same thing. Someone might think maybe instead of getting help for the issue that they're facing, drinking would help them or self-medicating would help them. That is not true. You are exposing yourself. You are taking yourself to something that it's very unhealthy, and you could build up, from one problem to another. So in this context, we have people, instead of them dealing with mental health issues now, then we have them, we classify them as dual diagnosis. In other words, you have two things that you're dealing with. You're an addict, and you also have mental health problems. It's a big thing. In Liberia, we'll say the common saying we use is your man died and your pa crazy. Sorry for that expression, but I have to put it that way to be more relatable to my brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, to the Liberian audience that would watch this. They will relate to it to some extent. And so, yes, so you have this problem now. Now you have to deal with the addiction. You have to deal with mental health issues. First, it was just the mental health issues. But because you started to drink, or maybe it was just the addiction part of it, guess what? You added the mental health part of it, because over time, as you expose yourself, it impacts your brain. But at some point in time, we'll talk more about addiction and the impacts it has on our life. We'll talk about it. So let's move on to the next one. let's move on here to the next group. Let's move on to the next group. We have projection. So projection is a form of defense in which unwanted feelings are displayed onto another person, whether they appear as a threat from the external world. So let me give you a common projection that is happening or that we normally see. For those of you who are following the Liberian politics, so they say the United Party lost, the United Party take their anger on ANC people. So you see, that's projection. In other words, you take your feelings from the real issue or the real person, you take it on to somebody. Let's take, for example, you come from work. You at work, maybe you got written up today at work, or something happened at work that you weren't happy with or about. And you get home, guess what? You take it on your children, or you take it on a significant other, or you start having attitude with family members or your friends. That's projection. You're projecting your feelings. Or in other words, let me make it a little simpler for all of us. You have issues with someone. Instead of addressing that person, you address all of them, including the man, the pie, everybody. Start to project your feelings on everybody. These are projections. So that's how it works. These are part of the defense mechanism that people use. Is it healthy? It's not healthy. It's not healthy. It is not healthy. So another part of it also is regression. So regression is something that we don't pay attention to. So let's look at regression. Regression is the return to earlier stages of development and abandoned form of gratification belonging to them, prompted by danger, conflict, or at one of the later stage. Let's break this down, because most of the time we don't think about regression. So when you don't act your age, you're regressing. Because well, some will say retrogressing, but regression in the sense, we don't in mental health, psychology, counseling, therapy, social work, we normally don't use retrogression. We normally use regression. In other words, you're going back. You should be going ahead. So let's take, for example, God forbid, your 50-year-old man misbehaving on Facebook, or your 50-year-old pa misbehaving on Facebook. Your mom, your pa is regressing. Simple. They're regressing. Maybe they think they didn't do when they were younger, they want to do it now. But in a nutshell, in common sense, it shouldn't be that way. When you're a certain age, you're expected to act a certain way and behave a certain way and do certain things. Another form could be in this regression thing here could be you don't feel safe at your age. You start acting. So people, something that is clear, maybe you haven't paid attention to it. Most of the times when people, before someone loses their mind, they always revert to the first language they ever spoke. So let's take, for example, if the first language you ever spoke in your life was French, Spanish, German, whatever, when you lose your mind, you would return to that because you're going back. And this is a phenomenon, this is something that I find very interesting and fascinating. What's really happening in the brain for people to regress that way? You go back. You go back in time. You go back to your small town, let's put it that way. A lot of stage of your life, and you start to do things that when you're regressing, that are not of your age. But let's move forward, because today I told you that we'll run a little faster. I told you we'll run a little faster here because we have to get this covered up. So some other defense mechanisms. We're moving into other defense mechanisms as well. So again, this is not mutually exclusive. There are others out there, but at least for the sake of this conversation today, we're keeping this context. So there's something called sublimation. Sublimation. And I want us to look at sublimation because it's important. So sublimation is the diversion or deflection of an instinctual drive, usually sexual ones, in a non-essential channel. Psychoanalytic theory holds that the energy invested in sexual impulses can be shifted to a pursuit or more acceptable and even socially valuable achievements, such as ethics, scientists, scientific endeavors. So, what does this mean? I give you an example. Somebody who's very violent, who's a very violent person, physically violent, they like physical violence, decides to become a boxer. So you see how they've turned that part of them. They want to become, maybe a boxer or something else. So normally this is, people are taking their sexual drive, for example, as it says here, and using it in a more positive, that energy to use it positively as opposed to use it negatively. Even though you think that if you have sexual urges and a thought come to rip someone, it will be problematic. So maybe you say, no, I will shift that energy or that desire, whatever it is, into something. Maybe I would divert myself. Maybe I will do something else. Maybe, I will get involved with something more healthier than wanting to violate someone or than trying to pursue that sexual desire that I have now. I want to do something better with it, with that desire or that energy that I have at the time. But let's move forward to denial. The next thing. So denial. Denial is the conscious refusal to perceive that painful facts exist. So think about it. So most of the times, I'll give you an example. One of the stages of grief is denial. People getting in denial. You don't want to accept the fact that you've lost that loved one, or you're losing that loved one. So you get into this denial mode, and you refuse to believe it. For example, in here, say some people are denying the homosexuality or hostility or mental health deficit in one's child's life, or individual can engage in tolerable thoughts, feelings, or events. So it's not about how long you deny it. It's not about what you deny. It's about the fact exists. And sometimes people, the sad part about it, people make excuses around it, even though they know there is a problem. It's even gotten worse in our community. It's even gotten worse over the past time in our community, in the Liberian community, as I've been watching people and just observing that people have come from taking denial in a way it probably should be a personal issue. That people are even in denial for other people. Think about it. People are even in denial for other people amidst all of the facts and the evidences that are present. People are still in denial for other people. So they make excuses to defend other people. Again, even with the facts available. And so that takes it to another level. It takes it to another level. I think it surpasses psychopathy. It takes it to something bigger, dangerous, and seriously problematic. Because maybe denial would be something that affects you directly that you're in denial about. But to be in denial to the point wherein you feel the need to defend other people, it's problematic. It's troubling. I mean, I don't know how to term it. I'm still researching, I'm still reading to find other means that some of these things can be described as or in. I don't know if it's still part of defense mechanism because I've never seen that. But I mean, we'll move forward to the last few ones here. One here, which is rationalization. I see this. People think it's trying to intellectualize things, but I see this happening around us as Liberians most of the times. But let's see what rationalization is. It's the substitution of a safe and reasonable expectation for the truth, but threatening course of behavior. So let's take, for example, have you heard people say, maybe you've heard this very commonly because in Liberia, everything is seen to be politicized or politics. Have you heard people say, we know there are challenges in the country? Well, the truth of the matter is they're trying to rationalize it. Some people say they're trying to intellectualize it. No, there are not challenges in the country. There's suffering in the country. So you see it. They don't want to face the fact. So they rationalize and say there are challenges in the country. I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example, which I think is very interesting and is very fascinating in his case of rationalization, wherein people rationalize things. Instead of facing the fact that more likely so, substance abuse could lead to addiction, people say, okay, I hold a mirror thing on our side. Don't bring it here. Will not hold it, people. Okay. Does that take away the fact that you could become addicted? You could have health problems. You could have mental problems. It doesn't. I'll give you another example that's probably relatable as well. You tell someone, if you listen to toxic things and toxic people, eventually it gets hold of you. It becomes how you think, how you process, and how you react. People tell you, no, that's not true. I want to control myself. When you're still on the toxic things, you're still on the toxic show, you're commenting, you're following, you're doing this. Eventually it becomes part of you. Eventually. Because that's what you're hearing. That's how we are. One of the best ways we learn as humans is by hearing. That's one of the best ways we learn. So people rationalize things. I'll give you another example. That will probably be relatable, and I'll open the line here for the next few minutes. If you have any question, any concern, post your questions, because after this will be done. Post your questions, please. On the live feed, if you have any question, any concern, because I do intend to leave from here on the hour, or maybe at most 5 minutes. I will allocate at most 5 minutes. So I give you another example. And I'll relate this maybe again to our Liberian politics, because it would help. It would be more relatable. I think we are the only group of people maybe on earth that I know of, Liberians, that make excuses not to do the right thing. So let me give you an example. Say, oh, the men are good men. A man or a woman a good woman, she get good repetition. She not steal, she not do the one, she not do that one. But she not popular. People not know her. People not knowing. So you see, you're trying to rationalize not to do what is right. You're looking for justification not to do what is right. But you know what is right though. But you try to find a way around it. You try to squeeze around it not to do what is right. And that is a problem. That in itself is part of, the defense mechanisms that we are talking about. And these things can affect us. And sometimes we do it consciously and unconsciously. And I see that almost every day amongst us, amongst the young people, the older people, people with education, people with no education. We're just recycling these defense mechanisms as opposed to seeking help. We make excuses for everything. Another thing again also, somebody has mental health issues instead of them going to seek help. People are fasting and praying and speaking in tongues. And they're binding the devil and binding the demons. Okay. It doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't. It's not a religious thing. It's not a spiritual thing. It's a physical thing. It must be handled that way. And so that brings me to conclusion here. If you need these notes, you can always ask us. We'll make it available to you free of charge. Everything here is free, and free. Free as in free. So, do you have any question or any concern? Let's post your questions and concerns before I leave. Post your questions and concerns before I leave. Any question, any concern? Any question, any concern? Well, if you don't have questions or concern, silent means consent, or to some extent, that's what it is. So, I would probably give you the announcement. Kim says you can receive the notes by either emailing me or reaching me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Moses Sumo Sammy. Moses is my Facebook name. Reach out to me, send me a message. Moses is my Facebook name. I've had a lot of complaints that I need to change that name. I'm thinking about it. And once I change that name, I'm not going to change it again. So I'm contemplating on it very hardly and strongly. I've had lots of people reach out to me, say, "My man, you know, put your actual name, Steve Boley. That's what you need to put on there." It's okay. They didn't ask me the reason why I use Moses, but that's good. But Kim say, I digress. Most times, it's a spiritual thing. Okay, good. My man, send me, and I'll send you email. My man, you send me. Come on, man. Don't make anything half of me, brother. Don't make my way. I beg you, brother. Reach out to me on Facebook, Moses, and we'll go from there. Kim Kind says, please change that name to Steve Boley. Okay, we'll take vote. We'll vote. We'll vote, and I will evaluate my situation now. We'll go from there. So who is Moses anyway? Moses talking and say, who is Moses anyway? Anyways, let me give you the announcements for tomorrow and for the weekend. We have a very packed weekend. It is 50% or maybe 60%, not 100% confirmed, that would have Chairman Musa Ability on tomorrow. As our guest, Chairman Musa Ability. We're having on tomorrow as our guest, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We have Chairman Musa Ability on as our guest. No, you Metro. You need to spell my last name good, Bolay, not Boley. So we have Chairman Musa Ability on from the Liberty Party. And hopefully we can ask him if the Interpol has arrested him. But we'll also talk about the most recent Liberty Party ruling and what is ahead for the Liberty Party. We'll talk about what happened in Lofa We'll talk about other national issues. We'll talk about the CPP as well. So tomorrow, tune in, 2 p.m. on the same station, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. On Sunday, we'll have Professor Alaric Tupa. Professor Alaric Tupa will be on. He'll be our guest. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. He'll be our guest. And for those of you small children who not respect all, Professor Alaric Tupa will be here for us to talk about what happened to him during the coup, what happened to the Doe regime, real historical facts. The fact that he's still alive, healthy and strong, instead of rushing around to read different books, how about we hear from him? Like we can say in America, let's hear from the horse's mouth. Let's hear from him. Let's hear from him. He's a historical facts. He knows the truth. He was there. He experienced it. He knows what happened. So those of you who were born in the 70s, end of 1960, early 70s, we know what's going on. But those of you, children who were in the war and stuff like that, you need to come tomorrow and learn. Yeah, you need to come learn. Some of the books you're reading, some of these people never even ask Professor Alaric about other people, but can't hear from him tomorrow. But we'll also talk about most recent things. We'll talk about the CDC. We'll talk about Liberia, where it is today. Where can Liberia go? The future. We'll also talk about the DAL, Democratic Alliance of Liberia. As you're already aware, some of you, if you're not aware, Professor Alaric Tupa does not shy away from the conversation. Oh no, that you can trust. He doesn't fool around. He doesn't use his words. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's not into that typical Liberian. He's not on that. Let me put it that way. He's not on that level with nobody. He will say as it is. Yep. And I think because of his stance, he's earned the respect, the love, and the admiration of most Liberians around the world and other people who are not Liberians. It's very bold, straightforward, and he would also tell us about the progressive. We'll talk about the progressive. So see how the weekend is packed. A lot of things to talk about. But tune in tomorrow, guys. Let's have this conversation. I've had some requests from family members, from friends. They have told me 2 things. I need to change my name. And I need to cut my hair. But I told them I'm Moses. So Moses will not cut the bushy hair. But let's have a good weekend. Stay safe, guys. Let's get to the musical break here really quick. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of the heat. Get hydrated as much as possible. Be like me. Get hydrated. We'll see you tomorrow on the show. Tomorrow and Sunday. They promise to be very, very fiery. Very fiery. Thank you.
First time I saw your face,